Hi and welcome back to the Pet Biz Project. So today I am interviewing Adam McDonald, who is a growth coach, and he shares his experience on how to make your business sale ready and importantly on how to develop an exit strategy in your business. He has a lot of experience in buying and selling businesses over the years and building up those businesses to provide the business owner with the lifestyle that they want to live. But more importantly, recently he sold his e-commerce pet brand, Pet Collars, and he shares with us some of the lessons he learned along the way, some of the things he wish he had have known back when he started the process, and what went well and what didn't go quite to plan with the sale of Pet Collars. So there's lots of great advice here, and we talk about the fact that you shouldn't wait until you're actually actively thinking of selling your business to start to put an exit strategy in place. It should be a fundamental part of your business right through your business growth because you never know when you might want to sell. And it really helps the value of your business if you can demonstrate that you've had those systems and procedures, that marketing automation, the financials are watertight and tell a really good story. So it's really important to be putting those things in place and making sure that they tell the best story possible right throughout the history of your business. Not waiting until that day when you think, oh, okay, I've had enough of this, I want to move on to something new. So there's some great advice that Adam shares with you throughout this episode. So grab a cup of tea or coffee and sit down and relax and enjoy the episode. Welcome, Adam, to the Pet Biz Project. It's great to have you on. I'm really excited about this chat today because we're going to be talking about exit strategies. And I know that not just with your business Pet Collars that you bought and sold, but you have much experience with other businesses as well that you've bought and sold over the years. So I'm really excited about having a chat about exit strategies and all the things to think about when thinking about selling your business. So welcome to the Pet Biz Project.
Thank you, and it's good to see you again, Taryn.
Yeah, good to see you too. So I suppose let's go back to the very beginning and start off by going back a few years. And can you sort of tell us, I suppose, what was it that led you to Pet Collars in the first place?
I actually got involved with Pet Collars to give my mother-in-law a retirement option. So she started the whole embroidered pet collar movement be over 20 years ago now, and so they ran around, did markets, pet expos, very much direct to consumer sort of thing, and she got into it later in her life. Like she started at probably early 50s, and then 20 years goes by pretty quick, and then she's 72, I think. And so around her 70th birthday, I think, is when she looked to sell the business on to someone else.
Yeah.
And a couple of years, because it was a market business and, she had a couple of people look, but no serious offers. And she was getting quite antsy and wanting to retire and pull up stumps. And at the time, we had an events business where we used to send out a lot of merchandise. So we had a factory bay, we had, so we kind of had the infrastructure that we could take on Pet Collars, but we didn't really want to, and none of my staff wanted to do markets. So we did the deal. We took on her staff and I purchased the business from her. But we were very much going to move it towards an e-commerce style business. So we still allowed, Richard and Julie still did markets occasionally as part of the deal, because we didn't want to do markets at all. So we're like, if you guys still want to do it, feel free. And then things changed a little bit because we got an offer to sell our events business, which was another exit that we did.
Yeah.
But it left Pet Collars kind of as this abused stepchild. It was the only business we had for a while, and we just didn't. It was weird. So it sort of sat in limbo for a couple of years, and would just service the customers that Julie have order online. And then we saw COVID coming. I always wondered how big this business could be because we weren't doing anything with it. We're just kind of wasting a lot of money and leaving a lot of money on the table. And so I hadn't really played in e-commerce before. I'd been in a lot of other businesses, and
Yeah,
So
because your background wasn't in pet businesses, was it, previously?
no,
Yeah.
no, I've done everything from sports advertising to events to
Yeah.
produced a TV show and sold it to Disney and stuff. So, yeah, so it was my first dive into e-commerce, which was awesome because now I found that e-commerce is my jam. And with all the other business we had, they were very like high stress, lots of travel, which for me meant a lot of bad eating and eating out and not and so I picked up a lot of lifestyle disease through my businesses, really, which was interesting. So by having the businesses in the industries that I did, just led me to a poor lifestyle choices and which led to like obesity and type 2 diabetes and ultimately cancer, which was the big red flag to go, I need to change my businesses to reflect a lifestyle that's going to keep me alive versus, there's no point being the richest guy in the graveyard was an ER doctor told me once upon a time when I was in the emergency room.
Good advice.
Thinking I was having a heart attack. So so the e-commerce thing, I did a deep dive into it, loved it. It worked out perfectly, like most e-commerces, and especially those in the pet business over COVID. We benefited quite a lot from that. But I also learned a lot about, being able to have a business to match a lot. Like I can build a e-commerce business around what my lifestyle wants are and how much free time I want to look after my health and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was a.
So I suppose it was your health that was the challenge that was coming up in your business, pushing you to grow and evolve it in a different direction.
Yeah, for sure. And it was the reason that we had to exit. We probably exit, like I've got a horror story that I probably won't share, but one of the event business that we sold, ultimately we lost a lot of money because I wanted to get out of that. That was when we had the cancer diagnosis and
just wanted to get out of it.
And that's a big thing. Like we hadn't planned to exit, and then sometimes when you're forced, like I wasn't forced to exit, but it was something I had to make a decision on, and we chose. We rushed into a buyer who wasn't, probably, well, they turned out that they weren't the most qualified buyer for the business because we lost a ton of money in vendor finance when they blew it up and went Chapter 11. So, but we've had quite a few exits, and I think the more that I do it, the more that it becomes a strategy throughout the business, like structuring the business so your exit is better at the end of it. Because ultimately, if you build your business up so you get a good exit at the end, you're going to get a lot of benefits while you're operating it as well, because you just operate it a little bit differently and you're a little bit more, instead of being emotionally invested, there's always that financial angle where you're, you want to make the figures look good. You just make different decisions, which ultimately are beneficial. Like you might not think it at the time, but it's usually beneficial.
It's not until you start to look at your financials in a way that you're looking at it not just for day-to-day operations, but actually selling it as a business, as an asset. It's not until you look at your financials with that perspective that quite often you spot things that don't tell a great story. And it's that you need that time, don't you, to change things around, to tell the right story with your financials. And that can take a long period.
Yeah. And what I find, I do a lot of consulting now, and it's horrifying how many people that reach out to me, and I do an onboarding call just to see where they're at and to see if we're fit to work together. And when I ask them some really basic financial questions, they have no idea.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a trend, not that I've, collected hard data, but just from what I see, it seems to be that, especially say pet industry is one where people that are passionate about the cause versus, and so they think that that's an excuse to have bad financial management but ultimately you're doing harm to, like, even if you're building a community around it or you're doing something, like the more financial the better financial position you're in, the longer the business is going to last, the better for you personally when you go to exit and when you're operating it, because you've got more revenue and profit. But also if you want to help out with charitable causes, or like it gives you, we did the same with pet collars, like we were in a really good position there, and so when we, just before we sold it, we did a thing with Millie's Search and Rescue, which are, they look for really, really, really lost dogs.
Yeah.
But we could donate, I think we donated like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 towards them getting a thermal drone.
Yeah.
But I was in a position to do that because our business was financially sound.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think I agree with you that a lot of pet businesses tend to, well, the ones that I agree with you, I speak to a lot that are coming from a place of it's a heart-based business rather than a headspace. It's like you're coming at it because of your love of animals or the experience that you have through a pet that gives you the inspiration and the want to go and create something, create a business around it. But that's not an excuse to not think about the financials or not to use your head around, well, one day I may get sick, or one day I may just change and want to try something different. One day I might want to just travel. I might not want to do this. It's just thinking about the future and planning for the future. You wouldn't go into, buying a house. You wouldn't just treat that as if it's a hobby. It's an investment. And I think it's the same with a business. You've got to look at it as an investment that you're looking to grow the profit that you'll make off of it in the end when you sell. So
yeah, and that's realistically, like, business owners will know, like those who have dabbled in businesses, like it's not 9 to 5. It's not a job. It's like you're investing a lot of your time, and if you're bootstrapping, you're pumping in all your savings, all your money, the whole kit and caboodle. Some people get, investment from family members and friends. And so it's a lot of risk, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of, like, you need to have an upside at some point. And, and especially when you start, like, you're building a brand, and some people are building a legacy for their family business and all that sort of stuff. But you got to have some kind of reward at the end. And that's always been for me at the exit.
Yeah.
We've had businesses that have done quite well, while they've been operating and generate profit. And I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I'm always tending to grab that profit and invest it into somewhere else. So I never kind of realize the profits. But so that's where, for me, the exit's really important, because, if we can get a 7-figure exit on something, then, that's kind of like my condensed payments that I haven't been taking during the process.
All the way along. Yeah.
So, and you're building an asset, basically. So
definitely.
But that's where people, it doesn't take much in the world of Shopify. Like, most business owners I speak to that are in e-commerce, they can tell me what their revenue figures are, because it's pretty easy. It's on your dashboard on Shopify every second, or it cha-chings on your phone every time you get a sale. But when you drive down to go, what's your earnings? Like, what profit margin are you sitting at? That's where they start to glaze over and kind of...
Yeah, it comes back to managing the books off your bank account rather than actually looking at the financials. Like, you're just living off, okay, well, how much have I got sitting in the bank account this week, rather than looking at it over the quarter and what your cash flow is and your profit at the end. And so with your experience then, were you different? Did you take a different approach with pet collars to previous businesses? Like, were you straight away, right from the get-go, thinking about building it for an exit?
No, it's probably the only one that I haven't, only because it was Emma's family business. So I was a little bit of a passenger on it early on, because I just wanted to see whether Emma wanted to build it for something that we might pass on to our girls, because they love pets, and we do the foster thing and the adoption thing and the rescue thing, and we've always been very active in that space. So it's funny enough, it was one of the businesses where I didn't know what the exit was going to be, or even if there was an exit, I didn't know whether we were going to, this is going to be a legacy family business, and it wasn't until we built it up, because, as I said, it had a little bit of a no man's land period where it was, Emma was doing mum's hours, and we weren't doing any marketing. We weren't doing anything. Like, we were solely just getting repeat orders from people who knew what the website was from when Richard and Julie had it. Yeah. And it wasn't, and when it was that, it was cool, because it was, it was doing not much revenue. So the the pressure and the orders and getting stuff out the door was quite easy. But it wasn't until that we went and rebuilt the site and focused on user experience and started marketing and advertising, and then COVID, and then people buying pets in COVID and e-commerce in COVID. And we got to a point where we realized, or Emma realized, that it's not the ideal, it wasn't the perfect business for us.
Yeah.
Because while it was an e-commerce, if you had to categorize it as an e-commerce, because it was personalized, it still had a lot of bricks and mortar characteristics to it.
Yeah.
Which, for me and what I want, the flexibility I want with the business, and we love traveling, and even from when you look at we can talk about multiples when we a bit further down the line when we talk about valuations and when you actually look to sell and what you can get for your business. But
yeah.
The more automated your business is, and the more channels you can sell through, and the more your valuation's going to be a lot higher. So we realized the way we'd set up Pet Collars was that, we were doing everything in Australia and it was all Aussie and go Aussie and all the rest of it. But it created unless we wanted to invest a lot more in staff and a lot more in machines and a lot more, and every time you do that, yes, it's more revenue and you can turn your advertising dial up, but it doesn't, big is not always better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we had a good team. It was a good size. We didn't have to expand. And so we were always tapping that, to keep a 5 to 7 day turnaround on our products. We'd maxed out what we could do with the staff that we liked, and the amount of machines and the size and everything. So we kind of hit our limit. But at that same point, it was becoming, because I was doing the marketing side of things, the better I do my job, the more punished Emma would get, because she was making sure that it got out the door. So
not good for a marriage. Hey?
No. For me, because I like what I do in that regard. We would head into, a good example was last year, heading into holiday season where, you're gearing up that it's going to be our best season. We've got Black Friday, Cyber Monday leading into Christmas, and we had to turn all our ads off. And I basically had nothing to do. We didn't run any promotions. We didn't and because we just had so many orders organically, which is a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there for months with not much to do while I'm sitting there with not much to do, Emma's flying out the door at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're not seeing her till 8 o'clock at night because they were so
under the
busy.
pump. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just realized that it wasn't our perfect business, but we did realize that e-commerce was our perfect style of business that we'll be invested in until we retire. And then we've created a new project that we've basically created a whole brand and project that just ticks all of our boxes in regards to what we want personally, lifestyle, branding, eco. To get into a new business, we had a very long list of things we had to tick off before we go back in. So
it's sometimes realizing that a business is just a step on the journey. It's not the be all end all. It's just another experience, essentially.
If you learn, we learn a lot with Pet Collars that has set us up perfect to, move into a new brand that we're building that will be our perfect business. Not to say, and we actually have an exit strategy for it too.
Yeah.
But we just think that, especially for me, if it becomes a have to versus a want to, so that's when it becomes jobbish for me, and then that's when I know it's time to look to get out, because that's
So with Pet Collars, when did you decide, how long before you actually sold did you start to really think about exiting?
Right at that moment where I had to turn all the ads off in November.
Yeah.
And right there, I'm just like, Emma's busy, I'm not. We just knew that it wasn't. And I looked at different variations of what we could do to try to balance that out. And there were things that we could do, but none of them were things that we really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And for me too, I've built a lot of brands and sold them. This was the first business that I didn't create the brand as well. So I think there was a bit of that. I was never as passionate about this brand.
Yeah, you're never as tied to it emotionally, are you? Yeah.
Because it was, Julie created it 20 years ago and we took over for the last 4 or 5 years. But I just didn't have that same, like, I was more engaged in learning about e-commerce than I was about building Pet Collars as a brand. And Pet Collar as a brand by default, increased and did really well, but it was more because I was interested in user experience and, heat mapping people's journeys and, all that kind of fun data stuff. That was
the analytical brain comes out.
For sure.
So how important was things like email marketing and putting systems and procedures in place? Did you find that that was sort of a crucial part of looking to exit the business?
Well, yeah, the email marketing thing is it's essential. It's funny, like going back to the consulting thing where I look at a lot of people, I do a lot of tear down of websites and look at how their structures and stuff are. And, we tend to give away we give a lot away to get an email address. So whether that's free shipping or whether that's, sign up and get 15% off or, and I think that email kind of gets wrapped up in that's all it's for, is to try to it's nearly like email is a ploy to get the sale because you're giving them a discount. But realistically, like outside of increasing your valuation, if you've got a good database of customers and prospects and all the rest of it, it does add value to your business when you go to sell it. Especially if you're selling to someone who's in a like business or is vertically integrating where, they've got another product that they can introduce to that database.
To the same audience sort of thing.
So,
definitely.
But in that, I think, it's one thing to get an email. So if you're just putting a pop-up on your website that says, hey, sign up for 15% off, 20% off or whatever, someone leaves their email, they get the code automated through your CRM, and then that's usually it. And then they just sort of become they don't get segmented.
They go into the ether, don't they?
And it's just something that, when you get around to it, you spam them with something that's probably not even relevant to them because you haven't segmented your list well enough. But also too, and I suffered this probably when we first started e-commerce, was that I worshipped I didn't want to lose an email on that list because I'm like, I've got 68,000 people on my email list. That's
but
so good.
Are they engaged?
The reality is if that, and I would have thought, just throwing out a number, I would say probably 20,000 people of that list of 68,000 people were never, ever, ever going to buy anything from me. And yet I was paying, you pay to be on a certain level.
Subscriber level, So
each month it was probably costing me $200 or $300 US, to have Klaviyo or whoever you're with, to have those emails sitting there. And I wasn't really using the email list because we were busy. I wasn't effectively using the list. So for us, I used to give a lot of stuff. So we did the Human magazine and, for me, I'm always wanting to, I treat an email as like part of the family or part of the community. So I didn't want to just be hammering them with sales and setting up 17 flows for an abandoned cart email just to get them to buy. But it makes sense. At some point you need to test that list to see if they are actually worthwhile you keeping in and paying fees in your CRM for. So that's probably something that a lot of people have the same mentality as what I did, where you didn't want to you didn't want anyone to subscribe. You'd sit there and you'd set out an email blast and then have your fingers crossed going, oh, please don't subscribe. But I think that I would definitely, I recommend my clients that they work their email. They don't spam, spam sucks. No one likes spam.
No, it's about building relationships, isn't it? And
it's adding value. So
value.
My big thing is, I'm always talking to my clients about blogging, and it's the same. Blogging kind of fits in that same thing as email, where it's something that, people blog, they're like, oh, because I need to write articles that are stuffed full of keywords to help my SEO. But I'm like, if you think about it, I want to write a blog. If I'm going to spend the time to do an article, yes, I'm going to sprinkle my keywords in there and make it so it's Google likes it. But I'm also going to write something that I feel like I could email my list and say, hey, I've just wrote an awesome article about the effects of something X on Y. And so it's finding that it's either got to entertain or educate.
Yes,
And
you've got to like reading it yourself. You've got to
for sure.
enjoy.
And
You know,
nearly
you'd want to
proud
receive
to
it.
want to share it. Like
Yeah.
that's the big thing for me. I'm like, you want to
Yeah.
write something that you want to email all your list
Yeah.
and say, hey, check out this article I just wrote.
Yeah.
It took me all day and it was awesome, but I think you're really going to enjoy it, and it's going to
Yeah.
either educate or entertain you. And if you do that, you have an engaged audience, and when you have an engaged audience, it's a lot easier to sell to them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I suppose in terms of selling your business, just on adding on to email marketing, the whole marketing automation aspect, the more that you can step out of your business and step away and everything just keeps operating like a well-oiled machine without you having to be in there overseeing and, you know, stepping in and running everything. I suppose that just adds so much more value to your business as well, doesn't it? Because somebody else knows they can just step in and it'll continue to generate the same, you know,
And that's one of the benefits of email versus anything else, is that you can set up automations. Like, you know, it's I would always recommend when someone, we call them flows, you know, there's all different sequences and series of flows that you set up. But it's definitely worth, like I say to my clients, a lot of people just like me to do it because they just want to pay me to do it, which I don't really like. I would rather work for free and suggest to them that they spend a day on Google and YouTube listening to people who are really good at setting up email flows and working out what you need them, or even pay for a course like a Chase Dimond or, you know, one of these guys that are really good in their industry. Because if you can get flows right, like I would love it if I could do the same thing for flows as like for blogs, where automatically an article writes itself and gets sent to the right person at the right time. And like, it's amazing the email flow set up. So yeah. And like you said, it's something where it's automated. It's nothing that the new owner, if you sell your business, needs to worry about. And on that too, I guess one thing that we haven't really touched on, that if someone out there is looking to open a new brand, try to separate yourself from the brand as much as you can. So when we talk about automated flows, and you want to, if you've got an exit strategy, you want to make it as easy as possible for the next custodian of your business or brand to be able to operate it no matter who it is. So I kind of got caught out for a little while there. I was very much the face of Pet Collars, and I was doing the human thing, and I was videoing and all that's good because it gives you some kind of like personal connection to the brand, and people like the behind the scenes story and the storytelling aspect. But just be mindful that you don't want to build your brand to the point where it's going to be challenging for someone else to take over that role if they purchase it, because that will affect the multiple that you can get for your business and the people that are interested, like the number of interested candidates to buy your business as well.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that brings us on to, there are lots of different ways to sell your business, because I know traditionally, you know, you package it up as an asset and then sell it off and you no longer see it again. But I was talking to another business a couple of weeks ago that have just recently sold as well. And they, the business owner was very much the face of the brand. You know, they're everywhere. They're on the website, the social media, the YouTube videos. They're very much what builds trust with the brand. And what they had negotiated as their exit strategy with selling the business was that they no longer own the business. A larger group has bought a number of smaller pet businesses, and theirs is one of them. But what they negotiated was they can step out and no longer be responsible for the business, the operations or the profit or anything like that, but they still get paid a monthly retainer by the new owners to just do X amount of hours per month of still being the face of the brand. So
so they become like content creators.
Yeah, they do like a video a month, a couple of social media posts a month, sort of thing. But they no longer have the responsibility of the business. They no longer have any ownership of it, but they're just getting a monthly X amount of dollars per month to do this work for them. And that's for some people, that's a nice situation to step away from all that responsibility and just do a couple of hours a month and still get this nice little pay packet and not have to do a great deal. So I think that opened my eyes to the way that you can do so many different types of sales these days of your business.
Yeah. And there's different elements in the actual sales process as well, where you know, depending on what the brand is and I guess how much the brand's built around you, like that's an option, is that you continue to have the old owners produce content. So the community might not even realize that they've sold. And there might be like, there's a whole lot of NDAs around my contract with sale that I can't mention certain things, and which makes it tricky when you're doing podcasts on selling business. I can't mention any numbers.
Let me know if you need to edit anything out.
No. I'm very careful. It's not my first rodeo, so I'm very careful as to what, and which is, you know, I'm respectful of the new owner as well. So
their privacy and that as well.
Yeah, and just you know, like how much that should be disclosed. Like some things just should say private. Like it doesn't have to be in the public domain. So but I understand in some businesses that the new owner would like it to, you know, be a smooth transition where maybe no one in the community realizes that the business has been sold, because they might feel that there's going to be a negative blowback on that. Because if they've got a massive connection with the owner of the business, to find out that they've sold and they're no longer part of that community could kind of be a little bit of a kick in the gut. So so there's pros on both sides for that. There's also different elements, as in, you know, vendor financing and you know, so it might be an opportunity where you get a bigger buyout figure, but you've got to finance some of that yourself. And in that instance, you're probably going to want to be involved for the vendor finance term to make sure that the business stays on track. Some people build in KPIs where the business has to keep performing at a certain level, which means that you still need to be involved to ensure you hit those levels to get the multiple that you've agreed to. And so contracts can be super tricky, and there's a million different ways that it can pan out. But I guess ultimately, most businesses in the e-com realm will get anywhere between like a 1.5 and probably a 10 multiple, depending on, you know, if it's a consumable product, you know, what it's, if it's got IP attached to it. So we sort of worked around a multiple of around a 3x multiple, which I think 2.5 to 3 times multiple is a good one for, you know, like if you've started a pet food company out of your kitchen and now you're growing and you're building a brand and doing all the right things. You know, if you're looking at what kind of multiple you can expect, it's probably going to be somewhere to that 2 to 3 times. And by that, I mean, it's not on your revenue, it's on your profit. So this is why we were talking before about the importance of having good financial education. And because if you know, for instance, if you're running at a $300,000 a year profit, so, you know, you might turn over $2 million, and after your raw costs, your marketing, your advertising, your fixed costs, your like everything else, you know, you end up with a profit margin of $300,000. In that instance, your business is going to probably be valued somewhere between $750,000 and $1.1 million. So can you walk us through like the steps that you went through in leading up to the sale? Did you use a broker or anything like that to assist? And how did you determine who to use? Well, it's a relationship thing. So I reached out to a few of them. And to be honest, I reached out to 2 brokers before I found the one that I ultimately signed with. And I didn't get even a call back or an email back. So and it's pretty rife in that it's a very, like, from me, but like from a business looking at it from a businessman standpoint, it's an industry. And funny enough, I've just done my business broker's course. But it's
you were that attracted to the industry then.
it's run horribly actually. So this is the first time I'd sold a business through a broker. So usually in my other businesses, we've sold to someone that has approached us, or a competitor that, you know, over a beer, it's been suggested that it'd be a good merge. So this was the first time that we actually thought, you know what, we should look to sell our business, but didn't. I could have rung around competitors, and that's probably not a bad play because brokers are very expensive, but because we had a business that we knew that was going to be super popular for people to want to purchase, we thought a broker's database is going to be the best place to start. we did the whole process through a broker, but there is, you can actually just pay to have your listing, your expressions of interest go out to their database. There's a fee for that as well. And then you can manage the process once, they might send it out to 5,000 segmented people that might be interested. And then, you end up just contacting 150 people and the broker does no more. I think that fee would be somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, depending on how big the broker's database was. But if you wanted to manage the process a little bit yourself, that's a good option, because a broker traditionally will charge you between 5 and 10% commission on the sale. So,
which is a lot.
And it's usually plus GST as well.
Yeah.
So it's a lot, but it just really depends. It's a business by business basis.
Again, it's like buying, selling houses, isn't it? It's a very similar sort of situation.
So you'll definitely get lots of people. You'll get lots of inquiry if you go through a broker, but be prepared that you're going to forfeit a fair bit of a chunk at the back end. What usually happens is they do up an information memorandum. Now, the big upside I can see to someone in this instance is adding like a growth strategy document to that IM. They don't do it as a brokerage. This is another reason why I'm interested in brokerage, because they don't ask you to do that. And all it does, your business better than anybody else. So say using pet collars as an example, I knew what all the growth opportunities were. If you can put that in a document and attach it to because the IM basically just gives all the stats over the last 3 years of the business. So it gives what profit it's done, gives a snapshot of the staff, a snapshot of whatever assets, capital, IP.
So you're essentially putting together like a pitch deck that is then going to go out to all the people that might be interested.
I just think like we did that, and it just gave prospects an idea of what the upside, so the IM gives them a snapshot of what the business is now. Adding a growth strategy document to your IM gives them a look of what the business could be. And for me, it was like, if I was going to keep the business, this is where I would head, or these are the options you've got to go towards. So it plants in the seed. Like for me, it's a good to get a better valuation tool, because if they're looking at the numbers and it's valued on the current numbers, but then they can look at our growth document and go, man, we could 3x, 4x the revenues on this business pretty quickly just by investing X, Y, however it works. Then that they're not just valuing your business on the current data, they're also looking at what the possible, and usually the owner's the one who knows the best upside. So putting a growth strategy document. Another thing they don't get you to do, which I think is pivotal, and I don't know why they don't make you do it, but is putting a marketing contract from your solicitor on the business attached to the IM as well. So I made the mistake with pet collars that we didn't do that because we weren't, it wasn't suggested to us. We had a situation where we had two couples that wanted to buy it, and they were perfect for the business, and we were happy, and they come and we met, and everything was good. They put an offer in, and they'll put an offer in and then do the due diligence. So you buy them time. But we wasted probably 6 months with these guys. And only for the end, their circumstances, we didn't think they needed finance, but as it turned out, something changed in their personal circumstances for one of the couples. And they had to finance, and they got knocked back on their finance. So we wasted 6 months and a whole heap of time and a lot of money, actually, because we didn't have that marketing contract which states all the things that I expect from the sale, being the owner of the business. And what that does, that gives the other party a chance to look at what the contract's going to look like, and then they can suggest any changes on that while you're doing the negotiation. So what we did, we didn't have that document. We were just verbally via email and verbally going, yes, what's the expectation, blah, 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 blah. And then when we thought we had something that was ready to go, we drafted that into a contract, and then it then went to their solicitor, and then all the changes started to get made. And it was just a horrible way to do it. So for me, and I don't know why business brokers don't do it as a general rule, I would have my IM, information memorandum is what they call IM. which is all the current stuff, and it's a fairly standard brokerage kind of document. The two things I would add to it is a growth strategy document, which kind of is you telling the next person what you would do to make it awesome and get a best return on investment. And the other one is get your solicitor to draft up a marketing contract, just as a basis of negotiation and to kind of set some what you're happy with. Like, you know, the marketing contract is basically what you want to see as the end contract. It never happened that way. Like, there's always going to be changes, but at least if you put all of the terms and conditions that you want enlisted in the contract, it's there for them to look at and make a decision on whether they want to negotiate changes, because then that'll get done with the offer. You don't want the offer to be accepted and then afterwards they start negotiating.
Have to go through that process. So how long did the whole process take from beginning to end, from when you reached out to the broker to when you actually completed the sale?
Well, I think we listed early in this year, so it would have been in January this year. We had record amount of inquiry with our business through there. Like, they were blown away by how many, and so we had people looking at it from like the day that it was sent out as an email. And because of the price point, it you know, people had to do their due diligence because it wasn't a quick, easy kind of purchase. So yeah, but we found the two couples we found quite early, and they, like, for what they want, they just ticked all the boxes for us. But unfortunately, in hindsight, I would have done things a little bit different. So we did burn through 6 months with those guys. But once I actually the best offer that we got initially was the guy who ended up buying the business. But I kind of dismissed him because he wasn't as good a fit as the couples. But he was always, while the couples were dragging the chain, and it was, you know, he was jumping on and going, oh, it's still not off the listings. So he was very persistent to get another crack at it. And then once we let him, like, you know, in hindsight, if I went with him originally, it would have been maybe a 3-4 month turnaround.
Wow, that's quite quick, isn't it?
And what we did, like, it depends on, and this is where you talk about standard operating procedures. We didn't have any, so because it was a family business, I didn't get any when I bought it. Like, we didn't even do a stock take when we handed over. So there was a lot of things we didn't know that were a detriment, really, to, because I'm sitting there going, oh, we've kind of got about 100 grand's worth of stock or whatever it might be. You know, and so if you know all your stock levels and you've got a good inventory management program, our website was very old and wasn't good at inventory management, and because we purchased from a family member, we didn't do the due diligence when we purchased it. We just went, cool.
We'll take it.
And so knowing your stock levels, and on that, actually, you'll probably get brokers that'll want you to include the stock in the sale. Do not do this. Because then you'll end up paying commission on the stock. So if you do it as plus SAB, which is stock at valuation, that's separate from the commission. And I didn't realize that we marketed as all in price, and it wasn't until we got the deal done and then they were working out their commission, and I've gone, you don't get commission on what the
stock was.
And I had to fight hard because in my contract I was actually I had to pay, like, if they really arced up, it was in the contract. I would have had to have paid them commission on the stock.
That's good advice, because I wouldn't.
And I don't know. I'm assuming the worst, and they're doing it on purpose. But they did give me the reason that we did it originally was they did sell some benefits of including it as a holus bolus price. But there was other issues that it caused. Like, you're just much better doing stock separate to the business. Because then if the whole process takes 8 months and your stock value goes from this to selling down 8 months worth of stock, like, it just ends up being on a value, and it's way easier.
It makes sense. Oh, that's good advice. So what was the greatest challenge you think you faced through the whole process?
Not knowing the process.
Isn't that what the brokers are supposed to be there for?
Yeah, but man, there's a reason.
You're going to go and change that, are you?
There's a reason why I've invested in getting my brokerage license. On the way to getting my brokerage license. But it's a broken system. But it's just, for us, we just didn't set it up a way that would be the smoothest transition. So I would say have standard operating procedures. have all your stuff documented, have all your stock levels documented and up to date. If you've got IP or something that's worth IP, I definitely think it's worth doing it because it'll add to your valuation.
Yeah.
It's just nicer than trying to do things after the fact. Yeah, and the rest is just be up to date with your financials. When you do your, we actually ran that business through a trust, which was another challenge as well, because I've got a few different other business interests, so I had to pull all the information out of the trust. So I would definitely run your business if you've got an exit strategy as its own proprietary limited.
Yeah.
Even if you've got a trust set up, like
Yeah.
you can pull the profits out of that business into the trust, but
Yeah.
if you can have most of your transactions documented in its own proprietary limited and then sell that proprietary limited as part of the business sale,
Yeah.
that would make things a lot easier. But definitely when you talk to a broker, you want your IM, you want a growth strategy document, and you want a marketing contract.
Yeah.
And they're the three things that will save you a lot of pain and hassle that I went through in my latest sale. I'm the only one I've done through a broker to date. So,
well, I suppose you've learnt so much from this experience that you can take forward to the next one and that as well.
Definitely.
It's all a learning process. So on that topic, what's next for you, Adam? I know you've got your finger in a lot of different pies.
Yeah, well, part of my strategy is to take my fingers out of a lot of different pies and just focus on maybe one or two.
Okay, fantastic.
So I've gone back to school for the first time. I've just turned 50 and I haven't done any. It was the first time I did tests or had to study since I was 18.
Yeah.
So a long time. I'm going to investigate the business brokerage thing. I've got my business consulting. I've always done consulting just as a pro bono to help friends out. But during COVID, it kind of got to crazy levels where I couldn't help anyone, but I didn't want to disappoint friends that recommended other friends to me. So I've set up adammcdonald.com.au, which is basically just a place where people can come in and book time. And for me, I don't like contracts or if I had to explain myself, I'm kind of like a business cheerleader. So my clients, I tend to, the first time when we're doing strategy and that, it might be for half a day, we dive in and I set them some pretty solid homework. And like I said, some of them want me to do it because they don't want to. But mostly it's, I just jump on for an hour with people and I'm kind of like a business cheerleader. So, once they've hit a wall or they're procrastinating or they're just finding it hard or they're spinning their wheels, I'll jump in for an hour. I'll pump them back up, give them some different ideas to think about, some different strategy, and then set them on their way. And
Fantastic.
then they just book time when they need it. And that's kind of cool. But for my wife, we wanted to keep in ecom. But we knew what the perfect business for us was. And so we set up Saltwater Picnic Company, which does eco-friendly rugs that are, stain-proof, machine washable, waterproof, all that kind of stuff. And they're all made from recycled bottles, which was big for us. I've got a couple of young daughters that are eco warriors.
Good on them.
And it's a business that, we do a 3PL, like a third-party logistics company. So we don't have the factory. I don't have the overhead. We have zero staff. All we do is answer emails. And like our order came in and didn't even see the container. It all got unpacked. And so
fantastic. If
we're sitting on a beach in Bali or whether we're in the mountains hiking or doing whatever, the business runs as it is. I've been Amazon curious for a long time, but I've never had a brand that fits the Amazon model. So we're going to do Amazon. We're probably going to look to do our international expansion through Amazon into USA, Canada, UK. And just, recycle 96 water bottles to make a nice, awesome picnic rug that'll last people 20 years.
That's fantastic. That's great. And so can you, through your coaching, growth coaching, do you also help people if they're looking to sell their business and understand how to develop an exit strategy and how to set things up ready for that? So
that's probably more my, it's in my wheelhouse, that kind of stuff, because I have exited probably half a dozen businesses in the last 10 years. So that's the stuff I love and I'm passionate about. But a lot of even if someone's not looking at the exit, a lot of my consultancy is around getting the best exit anyway, because at some point that's going to be a conversation that you're going to have to deal with. So I think good business is building your business around an exit anyway, whether you do or not is another thing. But it's just building, like, all the things that make a good business also make a saleable business. So I
think it affects your energy as well within the business, that if you know that you've got things set up to leave, it's almost like you're there because you love it rather than because you have to be there. It's, you know that it's part of your lifestyle freedom, I suppose, that if you know that you can step away from it at any point if you wanted to. So I think it's all great advice.
Powerful business. If you can get to that position. And this is what I love about our businesses as well. You know, like if it's a nice sunny day, because I launched a picnic when we had a summer that was like rained constantly and was flooding. And it was a challenging launch, let me tell you. But like I just look out the window and go, like, today, perfectly sunny day. I'm going to go and get some content. I'm going to go do a 20K walk. I'm going to it just, if you set your business up right, you'll get the freedom that having a well set up business affords you. But by doing that, also by default, you're creating something that you're going to get a way better multiple when it does come time to sell. Because I can sell the way Saltwater Picnic will be set up. You know, I'll probably be looking at a multiple over 5 compared to, say, 2.5 as a figure for pet collars, because it's just set up that anyone in anywhere in the world can do. And then, you know, all you've got to do is love going on adventures, setting up picnics and getting content.
Yeah,
and that's my job.
Sounds bloody good, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So what's the best way for people to reach out to you if they would like some help?
Just jump on the website and there's an inquiry through that. Or it's just hello@adammcdonald.com.au. I'm on IG. Like if you look up Adam McDonald, usually growth coach or growth strategy or something, you'll find me. But I'm not super active on that because I don't want coaching to be a job. So I'm happy if I get my little alert from my calendar app that says, "Oh, you've got three appointments this week," and I'm like, "Yes."
That's
so
great.
I've got plenty of times to get my health back on track. So
that's good. That's the main thing, and we'll include those links anyway in the show notes, and so it's really easy for everybody to find you and reach out if they'd like to have a chat and get some help. But thank you so much for your time. I always love our chats, and you just share so much knowledge and experience with our audience. So thank you so much for your time.
No worries at all.
Thanks.
All right. See ya.
Well, thanks again for joining us on the Pet Biz Project. I hope you've really enjoyed that episode. I have to say, Adam McDonald is so generous with his knowledge and experience and advice, sharing with us how to get your business sale ready and how to understand implementing a good exit strategy for your business right from the beginning, so that you always have that freedom in life to choose to move on to something else as and when you want to, if you want. If you don't choose to exit your business and you decide to just keep it going long term, that's also okay. But it just gives you that freedom of choice to be able to move away and do something different if you want to at some point in the future. So we'll share all the links that Adam mentioned to get in contact with him in the show notes below. Adam is very generous again with his time in terms of if you want to reach out to him for any advice or have a bit more of a chat about getting your business sale ready, then I'm sure he'd be happy to connect with you. One great bit of advice that I received recently from someone that had just sold their business e-commerce brand as well was that one thing that they implemented was working up to a period where they were out of their business, completely out of their business, off traveling for 3 months, and to be able to show potential buyers that the fact that they were out of their business for a whole quarter and revenue and profit stayed consistent and there wasn't any drop in the performance of the business was a huge asset in the sale of their business, because they could demonstrate that the business was operating as an asset, a valuable asset on its own, and wasn't reliant on the business owner being there day in, day out in the trenches making it work. So I wouldn't recommend stepping away from your business for a whole 3-month period straight off, but work up to it. If you would like to demonstrate that to potential buyers in, say, 2 years' time, start working up to that by starting to take a week out of your business and coming back and seeing what didn't work well, what went wrong, where was there a drop in the performance of your business. Implement new steps and new procedures and new solutions and automation and things like that to help, and then go take maybe a 2-week break or a month and just gradually work up to maybe taking 3 months out of your business and being able to demonstrate that it still stayed profitable and was able to, and your procedures and team were in place to keep things going while you weren't there. So hope you enjoyed the episode. Certainly reach out to us with any feedback or questions. I'm always happy to have a chat with you as well. Make sure you subscribe so that you know when the next Pet Biz Project episode is dropped. We do one every 2 weeks, so keep an eye out we've got some more interviews coming up with other pet brand owners as well, which I'm sure you're going to love. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you later.